But I'd like to open a meeting at 7 o'clock, and we're going to have transmitting of the Treasury warrants, number 7, number 7A, 8, 8A, 9, 9A, 10, and 10A. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Selectman Semaglia, second made by Selectman Semaglia, second by Selectman Newhouse. All those in favor? Unanimous. I know Mr. Newhouse wasn't at the last meeting, so what we did is we held off on the minutes so Mr. Newhouse would have an opportunity to vote on the minutes. Approval of minutes of April 2nd, 2013, May 13, 2013, May 28, 2013, June 10, 2013, June 24, 2013, July 15, 2013, and August 12, 2013. Is a motion to accept?
Move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Second. All right, motion made by Selectman Newhouse, second by Selectman O'Connell. All those in favor? It's unanimous. And before we get to the appointments, I'd just like to state that the Selectmen, as you can see tonight, are wearing orange, and it's relative to leukemia awareness. So we're going to be doing this at both meetings in September, and I know this is something that was dear to Selectman Semaglia, and he did this many years ago, and I appreciate that.
I appreciate it.
All right, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, appointments, 7 o'clock, Robert G. Peterson, Esquire, public hearing relative to the request of BGP Tavern, doing business as Red Heat Tavern, to obtain an all-licensed alcohol for a restaurant property located at 300 Lowell Street. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. If I may take a minute, I do have a very small handout to give to the members of the board that you can look at it.
Thank you.
All right, it's all right.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also have my certified mail correspondence. Sure. Did have one returned that two on signed, Bob. I do have receipts to authorize. Thanks. Mr. Chairman, as indicated in the warrant, this is an application by BGP Tavern LLC for an all-alcohol license for property located at 300 Lowell Street. I'm sure that all of you are familiar with the site. It's currently under construction. It's been through site plan approval with the planning board. It's been through conservation approval with conservation. And I had stamped today the special permit for the full-service restaurant, and I'll be recording the same tomorrow. BGP Tavern LLC is a wholly owned subsidiary of Burton's Grill LLC. And with me this evening, Mr. Chairman, is Kevin Harron. He's the CEO of Burton's Grill, and Al Soto, who's in the second row, who's the named manager on the application. I believe the application is in order, Mr. Chairman, and I would be more than happy to let Mr. Harron make a short presentation to the board, and after that, we'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Absolutely. Welcome. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. We're excited to have the opportunity here to work with Joe and Rich in developing the site. I happen to have grown up in the area and have known Bob for a long time. I grew up in Reading and lived in North Reading just to recently, and we started Burton's Grill about 8.5 years ago. Really as a result, in part since 2008, we really felt that it would benefit our organization to have a more moderately priced alternate concept to develop in New England besides the Burton's Grill. So we have kind of really been working on this concept and idea for 2.5 years, but it was really took a little bit of time to find the right place that we thought it would work. And so in the last 6 months, I've gone out and hired some more additional support. Al has got 25 years culinary background, and he'll be responsible for the day-to-day running of the restaurant as well as the culinary development. And our goal and objective is to bring a high-quality operation at a moderate price point to your community, and hopefully fill a need for Wilmington and surrounding towns. Casual, but maintained to the high standards of which we run our Burton's Grill operation.
Thank you. I've heard some wonderful things about your restaurant and wish you the best of luck. I really mean that. And Mr. Peterson, did you want to say something else?
I just wanted to also indicate, Mr. Chairman, with us this evening are Joe Langone and Rich Stewart, who actually own the property at 300 Lowell Street.
One of two Wilmington's biggest developers, and they do an outstanding job. There you go. And right now, if there's where it's a public hearing, I'll go to before I go to Jeff for the reports, I'll go to the membership. If there's any questions or comments, anybody here?
Just conceptually, it appears the paperwork is in order, presuming that all the recommendations are what I would expect. Certainly have no objection to it. To the contrary, I think it's a great addition to the inventory of places like this in Wilmington. I think, for a long time now, we've tried to diversify the Bay. I mean, not that the town can do it, but we accommodate diversification of establishments like this. So as long as we have everything in order, I think it's great.
I agree. Anybody else?
I think the comments have been made. I looked at the application in detail. It's very well done and well presented. Certainly look forward to the manager's recommendations from the department heads, and certainly look forward to this coming to Wilmington, and thank you for your time. Just a question, if I may, assuming everything is a go, when would you plan on opening? Just for...
The plan probably, we're thinking it's going to be early March. We just need to, I'm sure Rich will do his best to get the building turned over to us as soon as possible, and then our fit-out typically is 14 to 16 weeks, and then we'll have a training period, acclimation period. Because this is brand new, we'll want to make sure all the product is in line, in order, and then we'll open to the public. We'll probably, I'm going to guess, employ about 80 people locally.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, and best of luck. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. I wanted...
If I may, very briefly,
absolutely.
Mr. Heron, welcome to Wilmington. It seems like, similarly said, it seems like all the paperwork is in order, and I think we have positive recommendations from the boards in Town Hall, so looking forward to having you come to town. If I may ask, I'm looking at the layout of how the restaurant, where the tables and the bars will be. I'm looking for the main entry relative to the street. So as we drive by the site today, how will, it's more just a curiosity question, that's all. I'm just trying to...
The way the building lays out, I don't want to say it's... What corner of the building is that, Rich?
Plans are right there, Kev.
If you were on 129, the entrance, which is currently being there, you'd probably see clearly this much of the building, and the entrance is on the corner facing the parking lot. So that would be almost southeast, I guess, would be the orientation. And it was really done because of the parking field, and that you didn't want to have customers to park and look at the back of your restaurant. So it is, I think, situated ideally the way it should be for a lot of different reasons.
Neat. Okay, that's a nice looking frontage of the building as well. Thank you. That's a helpful graphic. I don't know if the television was able to get a sense of it there, but
Probably look better than that.
I'm sure. I did have one last question, and it was, and I don't want to pigeonhole you or categorize it too tightly. I think you've already kind of done some of helping us get a grasp on where it fits relative. I've been to Burton's. I think a number of folks from the area probably have. So in the scheme of, I don't know, give us something to compare it to. Is it above the 99 but below the Burton's on the price scale and
more like a
formality
Ritz-Carlton.
scale?
I would never say anything negative about my competition.
Yeah, I know.
because
I'm sorry.
We're in a very difficult business, and it's a real challenge. I think what we will intend to do is try to not bring you necessarily the stuff that all other folks have done prior to this. Al is incredibly talented with preparation of food and flavors. And one of my, I guess, personal goals, I've been in this business 35-plus years, creating Burton's with some help of my partners was an exciting adventure, particularly since it worked. So I'd like to see a repetition of that, but I am very much a believer that middle America, for the most part, got hit pretty hard after the recession. They still like to dine out, and believe we should give a quality dining experience to folks. And you can do that with some unique food preparations, but there'll be the basic traditional fare, and there's a sample menu in there. I didn't want to confuse you to think that that's locked in stone, because the menu development piece will be about a 6-month process for us to blend flavors and whatnot. So you'll have a good representation of traditional, and you'll also have some unique, I guess, preparations of food. We're also trying to be very conscious to changing trends and the balance of health and flavors, and a children's menu. If you've been to Albertans, you know that our children's menu, I think we're very proud of for the way we do that. So these will all be parts very attuned to the community, and as I said, having lived for the last 20 years, 2 or 3 miles from here, I know the community very well. So we want to make sure that this is one of hopefully many opportunities to grow the brand. So
It's exciting.
we won't disappoint you.
I'm sure of it. I'm confident the community will embrace you. So look forward to having you on board, and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, this is a public hearing. Before I go to the audience, you do want to get the recommendations from the town manager relative to the staff here in the town. Jeff?
Yes, I have recommendations from the police chief. Upon completing investigation, the Wilmington Police Department recommends approval of the request presented by GBP Tavern LLC, doing business as Red Heat Tavern, to serve alcohol beverages on 300 Lowell Street. Also have a recommendation from Al Spalding, the building inspector. Reviewed the above-mentioned application, have no outstanding zoning issues. The property is located in a general business zone, and they have been granted a special permit from the Board of Appeals. And then finally, a recommendation from Shelley Newhouse, the health director. I recommend approval of the new alcohol license for BGP Tavern LLC, DBA Red Heat Tavern, 300 Lowell Street, subject to meeting all requirements of the Board of Health.
All right, thank you. Well, this is a public hearing. I will go to the audience. Anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? There's no questions or comments. It's a public hearing. All right, then I'll bring it back to the board. And once again, congratulations, and I wish you all the best of luck. I know you're going to do well. So I'll go to the membership. Is there any question, comments, or motions?
I will move to grant the request of, let's see, I want to say it right, BGP Tavern LLC, doing business as Red Heat Tavern, for the all-alcohol license for a restaurant to be located at 300 Lowell Street.
Motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Motion made by Selectman Champoux, second by Selectman Somaglia. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate it.
Peterson, thank you.
Okay. Yep, yep. Continuing right along, 7:15. Karen Rassiditz, yeah, I want to make sure I pronounce it.
Rashes?
Rashes. That was close. Principal Assessor, overview of process for property tax exemptions. Principal Assessor, a newly appointed Principal Assessor. Welcome, good evening.
Thank you.
Okay.
Excuse me. First of all, I'd like to thank the Board of Selectmen on behalf of the Board of Assessors for having me here this evening to give you a little update on the exemption process. That's an annual event with us. We've had a few modifications this year, so we thought that it would be of interest to have you on board and aware of what we're doing. So, first of all, the property exemptions are it releases a taxpayer of paying their full or partial amount of their taxes. Currently, we had given, everybody has the handouts that we had sent around. We did a mailing, and there's different forms that you have. We did a cover letter and attached a copy of the form that people are annually filling out, as well as we did a brochure that summarizes the exemptions available. Some of the exemptions that we have currently, and these are all by Mass General Law, it's nothing that's made up by the town of Wilmington. It's that we have the elderly exemptions, we have exemptions for blind, for disabled veterans with a 10% disability, widow and widowers, minors, and a spouse of deceased police and firefighters who are killed in the line of duty. And the qualification date for these are all July 1st each year. So if someone is 70 on July 2nd, unfortunately, they have to wait until the following year. But the qualifications for all of them are July 1st. The Massachusetts Commonwealth has realized that there are many, during the 90s, 2000s, how taxes were going up and how it was a burden on taxpayers. So they had come up with some local options to modify some of the requirements. I know if you look at the blue brochure, you can see that some of them have, they all have either like an age or a residency requirement, but somehow also have asset and income requirements. There are special local options that we can adopt to modify those so that it might perhaps have more people to qualify in the future. That's something we're going to be discussing with the town manager going forward. But what we've done this year as an outreach to the taxpayers is typically they filed in July 1st. So we sent a letter saying you don't need to file it this year until starting in September, and we'll mail you your application to make it easier. So we've mailed out applications with instructions, which are the letters that you had received. We met with Terry Marciello. Her and I sat down and went over the form. And then I did a presentation at the senior center last week, which I thought was well received. We had probably about 25 people in attendance. They asked questions. And then I also, thank you very much, and met with Lou, who had great input on the application, as well as understanding the process with the veterans, so that he is also an additional source that the veterans can go to get paperwork that they may need to qualify. We created the brochure for people to have as a reference, and that way they can look it over at their will to see if there's, rather than asking questions and applying for something and filling out paperwork only to find they don't qualify, they have the brochure that they can refer to that'll give them a little bit of a guideline. We had also, we'll put these on our website. We thought we were going to get them on there today, but they'll be on there tomorrow, so people can download that and have it as a reference. The applicants actually have 3 months to file after the mailing of the actual bill, which is in January, so they really have until the end of March to apply for this, or April 1st if the bills go out January 1st. We allow them to start filing now, so it gives them 7 months to get their paperwork together and get it into us. In the past, Wilmington last year, we granted 345 exemptions, and there were a total of 176 of those were veterans. So almost 51% of the applications are to help our veteran population. And that was a cost to the town of $195,740. And because this is a state reimbursable program, we get back $98,556 of that. Since it is a state reimbursed program, our documentation has to be in order so that if we're audited, that we can prove that we've been doing a fair and equitable position and treating everyone equally. So I'd give a brief overview of that. It's very detailed. I'm not sure you want me to go into all the details, but just to kind of give you an overview, that's where we're at. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I think this is just wonderful, the overview, so folks in the audience and obviously the press here, when they get that information out, that, obviously veterans, people have an opportunity to save some money. And I think that's a great program. Also, I'd like to touch base, folks out there, relative to an abatement. If people think they're being overtaxed for any reason, they have opportunities to go to the assessor to file an abatement, therefore to receive a reduction, if they feel they're being treated unfairly, which in most cases that's pro or con. However, I just thought I'd bring that up, and if there's any questions from the memberships at all.
Just a very general question. Karen, thank you very much. It's probably more of a statement than a question. I appreciate the outreach, because frankly, I don't fit into any of these categories, so I really don't know about this. And so reading this, I recognize, really for me, it's primarily the first time I've seen some of these options that are available to some of the populations that are being served, some of the elderly, some of the handicapped, some of the veterans. So it's important, I think, in this forum and some of the other forums that you said you've been out to the senior center, to some of the other locations where these populations are able to be addressed. So I really respect and I admire your bringing this information out to the public, and I hope that the public will listen and hear this and take advantage of these resources that the state makes available through reimbursement. My question to you at the end of that is, you mentioned it is a state reimbursable program, and while there is some cost, quote unquote, to the town, I kind of view it as it's an investment. It's benefiting the community overall and the residents within the community. What was, did you say, what was the outlay of cash that the town
Sure.
incurred?
Fiscal year 2013 was $195,740. That would be something that would come out of the overlay.
And we were reimbursed to the tune of how much?
$98,556.
Okay.
There is also the Commonwealth has a program. It's nothing that we administer here, but it's a program that the state has, and it's called the Senior Circuit Breaker Tax Credit Program. And I contacted the Department of Revenue to find out how many of our citizens are qualifying for that as well, because that's a much higher credit. They can earn up to $1,000 off their taxes. And the latest information that they had was from 2010, and they said there was 359 seniors, and the average claim was $785 that they had were able to get.
But again, these folks are becoming aware of that program by engaging with you in your office.
We hope so.
We hope so, indeed. I hope they will, too. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I just wanted to add, just obviously my thanks as well. Had a couple of resident constituent inquiries about this, and they were handled in your office very expeditiously, so thank you in doing that. I think it's more the process change. It's not that services went away, it was just a process of doing things a little bit differently than what had been done in the past. So I think, the first adoption of a new process, I think, takes some time to gain some traction in any community, but I think the outcome of those changes will be far more favorable and more of an education process than what I've seen. Just in looking at this, just to clarify, on the disability piece, I see it under the veterans exemption. Do we offer standalone disability exemption?
And
Or do you have to be a veteran that's disabled?
right, so that's a veteran disability. They have to have a 10%.
So it's not a disability, just with a non-veteran status?
Right. There is a
Okay.
paraplegic exemption.
Okay.
The blind really is, but other than that, there's not really an exemption
Okay.
for that. And these are all by statute. They're not like
Sure,
local.
I know it's not
Yeah.
town-driven, it's more Mass General law.
The one on here that is town is the senior work-off program.
Yes.
And that's administered through the manager's office.
Okay.
And so they would apply through that as a town kind of adopted.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
I'd just like to thank Karen and your office as well for getting the word out. Also, to clarify, the veterans exemption is for disabled veterans.
Right.
10% to 90% is the $400 a year, and 100% is the $1,000 a year.
Correct.
And that is all 100% reimbursable to the town.
Well, actually, you know what? It's not at 100% reimbursable, so the Clause 22s, let's see. Let me give you the numbers. The 22Es, which were the 100%, we had $25,000 that was in tax, and we were reimbursed $20,625.
You're only allowed a certain number of 100% disabled veterans in the town, or something to that effect.
There's a limitation
limitation
on that, right.
I was under the impression we had not reached that.
Well, that's for the 22Es, but the regular 22s, that was $56,800, and we were reimbursed $31,950. So it's not at 100%.
And that's not counting the widow's exemption to the...
The widow's exemption,
22D, I think it
the
is.
22D, that's hefty, but that was fully reimbursed
Right.
at this point, so yeah.
Good. Very good.
Well deserved.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it's all been said. Thank you.
Thank you.
And certainly, if any questions, if there's something you need, or you have a constituent that asks, new process, if there's something that we need to do or answer questions, we're happy to do
I'd
that.
just like to say, appreciate you being here. These outreach programs are very valuable to these veterans and obviously citizens here in the town. So appreciate the information, getting it out there, and I think and if there's anything else you'd like to add, we're more than happy.
I would say the only thing I'd like to add is a thank you to Lou and to Terry Marciello, because they're both taking care of a big chunk of that, too. Lou is phenomenal with the veterans, and Terry does a great job with the elderly. We really shouldn't be filling out the application, so she's really a good source to try to help and guide with that as well. And they've been fabulous, so thank you.
Thank you for putting my number on the letter that you sent out, because it's been working.
Sorry. But I did ask his approval first.
That's right. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. Have a nice
you.
night. Thank you. Okay, moving right along, communications. Jeff, you want to bring us through communications? Thank you.
The first item under communications is correspondence from the Attorney General's office. This is directed to Sharon George, the town clerk, and is indicating approval of a number of articles that were passed at the annual town meeting, largely zoning articles and a couple of general bylaw articles. That's the correspondence from the AG. We also have correspondence to the board from me just outlining the tax reduction for solar array projects. This is something that the legislature approved to promote green development in the Commonwealth. And with respect to these solar panels that you may see on buildings in various locations, property owners, whether they're commercial businesses or residents, can have these panels installed on their property. And under the law, they receive a 20-year personal property tax exemption. It's, again, to promote alternative energy. National Grid and some of the other electric providers have been entering into contracts to receive the power generated from these rooftop units to meet their renewable energy mandates. Municipal light companies like RMLD are also starting to participate in these programs. You may recall not too long ago, maybe a year or two ago, the legislature proposed some legislation that would have limited the approval of these green, so-called green energy facilities, limited the ability of municipalities to be involved in the process of approving them in terms of tax rebates or tax exemptions. So a number of communities began negotiating these payment in lieu of tax agreements in order to try to maintain a revenue stream through these efforts. Wilmington has been recently approached by a developer seeking one of these pilot programs. Initially, their proposal was to install the panels on 3 buildings. They've since scaled it back to 1 building. RMLD would purchase the power. Essentially, this energy developer, so to speak, would pay the building owner rent for use of the roof space, and then in turn sell the power to RMLD at a negotiated rate. This developer is seeking to implement the project within the next 6 to 8 months, and is seeking a reduction of about 60% of the potential personal property taxes. This would be a first for Wilmington, both in terms of this type of project with regard to personal property, or for that matter, any type of reduction in property tax. Since I'm expecting that this will not be the last similar type of proposal, I think it's advisable to bring this before the board and at a future selectmen's meeting have a full discussion about the pros and cons of this as we begin to provide more information to the board and essentially develop a template or a policy that can be used going forward, so that if there are other proponents, we can handle them in a similar fashion.
Sure.
So in the meantime, Carol Hamilton, Karen Rashis, and Kendra Amaral have been meeting with the developer of this proposal and having some discussions, obtaining information about the proposal, and there'll be more information forthcoming on their program. Next, under correspondence, this is a memo, again, from me to the board, with respect to Sunday business hours for liquor establishments. Specifically, we had a request from Eastgate Liquors to extend their Sunday hours, and after reviewing the requirements under the general laws, it's been determined that once the Board of Selectmen grant a license for Sunday hours, the establishment has the right to set the hours of their Sunday operation as long as it falls within the parameters of the general laws, which is 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., with the exception of Sundays preceding a legal holiday. In those cases, the hours can be 11 a.m. to 8 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. So essentially, if the board approves Sunday hours for an establishment, now this is an establishment that where you purchase alcohol that cannot be consumed on the property, then the owner can establish the hours within those parameters.
So, I'm sorry, Jeff, if I interpret that whole thing correctly, this particular establishment came to or inquired of the Board of Selectmen if it would be okay to open or expand their hours for Sunday, and by virtue of the fact we've already given the okay to be open on Sunday, they really didn't need to ask our permission. We don't have any
That's
authority
right.
on that.
Yeah.
So they can open up as many hours, or within those
Within those
parameters, they can expand their hours within that parameter.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we wish them well. I wish them well. Thank you.
We have a notice from the Conservation Commission. This is with respect to the annual town cleanup day, which is scheduled for Saturday, September 21st. This has been going on for a number of years. I'm going to say probably 15 or 20 at this point. Each year, the Conservation Commission, through the administrator and members of the commission, hold a one-day cleanup where they target particular areas around town which have been subject to disposal of everything from tires to any number of things. The cleanup day will be held from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Volunteers will meet at the DPW yard at 135 Andover Street. Volunteers are encouraged to bring hip boots, and gloves will be provided on a first-come, first-served basis. The rain date is September 28th. If there's any questions, you can contact the Conservation Commission at 658-8238. We have the board has an invitation from Leonard Melvone. The letter, I'll just read it, reads, "The events of the marathon bombing are still so very fresh in our minds. The horrible event affected so many in our town in so many ways, and many are still asking why or what they can do. The men's group at St. Thomas's have decided to have a blood drive in the town of Wilmington. To that end, I have met and spoken with the Red Cross. We will be having the blood drive on Saturday, September 28th at St. Thomas's Church Hall from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. It will be called the Wilmington Strong Blood Drive, and will be in honor of the victims of the bombing. So please accept this personal invitation to you, Mr. Manager, and the Board of Selectmen to join us on Saturday the 28th to help out, or even leave a pint of yourself at the door." So that's,
Nice cause.
we have correspondence from Verizon. This is again informing the town of a change in their channel lineup. This is to notify the town that after October 11th, Channel 1489 will be removed from the NBA League Pass package. Programming on Channel 1489 will continue to be available on Channel 1450. Customers will be notified by means of attached bill message that will run in the September bill cycle. Under Board to consider.
Yes, go ahead, continue.
Board to consider, we have a letter from Deborah Cipriani, the Recreation Director. On behalf of the Wilmington Recreation Commission, I am requesting permission from your office and the Board of Selectmen to conduct the 46th Annual Horribles Parade on Sunday, October 27, 2013. Participants will assemble in front of the Public Safety Building at 4:30 p.m. and then proceed up Church Street to the high school cafeteria, where volunteers will present all costumed children with holiday treats. We cordially invite you and the members of the Board of Selectmen to join the festivities as spectators or volunteers. Volunteers should be at the high school cafeteria by 4 p.m. Last year, we estimate that approximately 450 children participated in the festivities. With your support, we look forward to continue this time-honored event.
So, given that, is there any questions, comments, or motions relative to the annual Horribles Parade on Sunday, October 27th?
Make a motion, we grant the request.
Motion made by Selectman Semaglia. Is there a second? Second by Selectman O'Connell. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
This item has been brought up previously. This is the looking for consideration of an appointment to the MBTA Advisory Board. If you recall, at the last meeting, there was a request to obtain further information about the time commitments for an appointment to this board. There was an email that came back to the town, and I'll just brief. All cities and towns within the MBTA coverage area have representation by either the mayor or the city, the mayor of the city, or in your case, the chairman of the Board of Selectmen. It is not required that you have a designee at all for attendance. Your designated appointment can either work for the town or can be a member from the community. Your town will still receive the same material that you have been receiving for the meetings. Meetings are held 2 or 3 times per year and are held based upon budget reviews sent to us from the MBTA, which the law requires us to review and report our recommendations back to the board within 90 days. We do not know in advance when these requests will come in from the MBTA, but try and provide you ample notice of the meetings, usually 2 or 3 weeks in advance. So essentially, they meet 2 or 3 times a year based upon a request from the MBTA.
I know at the last meeting or two, we discussed this, and I don't know if there's anybody in the membership that's interested in being a member of the MBTA Advisory Board. Like I stated, I've been in it for many years. Unfortunately, it's very difficult for me to make it on Friday, but I've always returned calls, and in all the years, I've received 1 or 2 complaints. And I talked to Mr. Regan, and we resolved it immediately. And but to be totally honest, you only get a few days' notice by the time it gets to the town hall in order for you to go to the transportation building. So the 2-3 week window is really not accurate, and it's just difficult. So I don't know if that any of the members are interested. If not, I think we do have an opportunity maybe to point outside of the membership, but I'm not saying that's the route that we go. So it's open for discussion with anybody.
Is it a Friday evening typically or a daytime appointment?
Usually it's like on a Friday daytime. You know, the toughest time for me to actually be anywhere, Friday.
Yeah.
And it's usually typically on Friday. That's the thing. So it's just a difficult time.
Sounds to me like we've been getting the information anyway.
Yeah.
Through the notifications through the town manager's office.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's absolutely necessary that we appoint somebody to.
I mean, I don't have an issue continuing it. I'm saying, as I did bring it up to the manager, I thought maybe somebody else, I just want to go on the record that I haven't made the meetings. However, I've always returned calls, and it's just a difficult time. to go. And, and it's really tough. It's tough for me personally because of my business on a Friday, but,
I don't know how you feel about this, Mike. If you want to have a name, I think it's important for the town to have a name, a designee, for lack of a better word. And it could be any one of us, perhaps, and maybe you as the chairman, but, and I recognize your situation with the difficulty and the scheduling and all, but couldn't you, at that point, once you've been made aware that there is a scheduled meeting, it sounds like these things they come about, like, we're going to have a meeting in a couple of, in a week or so. Communicate with us, and, if one of us is available, well, one of us will step up, or if there's maybe someone from Town Hall that can go in your stead, then, maybe it's worth, in my view, it's worthwhile to have a name assigned to this role, and then we can figure out who goes as the designee if it's not you. That's just a thought. I don't know how the others feel about it.
No, I think it's a great idea. So if you want to work with the membership, Jeff, and when an appointment comes up, you really got to tell Mr. Regan, they have to do a better job in notifying us because it's within days. It's not weeks. And I can tell you because I've seen it, so we really need to get at least an opportunity to understand when the date is. And that's what we'll do.
Certainly, if there's a meeting that comes up and if you or whoever happens to be designated is not available and it appears to be a key meeting, I'll make arrangements to have somebody represent the town.
I think that's a good idea, Mike. And if there's no objection, that'll be the route that we'll take. All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good idea.
We have correspondence from Hazel O'Brien, 18 Hobson Ave, and she is writing in regard to a request for a stop sign to be installed at the junction of Miles Street and Hobson Avenue, as it has become a hazardous area. Cars not stopping before entering Hobson Ave. This request was forwarded to the police department as well as Public Works. Dawn Onosite indicates, please be advised, I have reviewed the request from Ms. O'Brien of 8 Hobson Ave for the installation of a stop sign on Miles Street at Hobson Ave intersection. It is my opinion that the installation of a stop sign at this intersection does not appear to meet the criteria established in the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices in terms of vehicular, bicycle, or pedestrian traffic and sight distance. In addition, I have discussed this request with Safety Officer Brian Moon, and he has indicated that the intersection does not have a high rate of accidents to warrant a stop sign. Therefore, it's my recommendation the request for a stop sign be denied. Also, a memo from the police chief. The police department has reviewed the request for a stop sign at the intersection of Miles Street and Hobson Ave. We have discussed the request with the Department of Public Works. After our review, we do not recommend a stop sign be installed at this intersection.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Go ahead.
Comment that I'm certainly prepared to offer a motion, but, I feel compelled to take the recommendations that we've been provided, not only on their face, but because historically, I think we've found that, we can turn into a town full of stop signs if every one of these requests is honored. But I also recall over time that whenever a request like this has come up, and we've referred it to police and public works departments, and when they've come back with a recommendation like this to deny the request, they have also offered to step up enforcement and visibility, et cetera, and oftentimes that works, and sometimes that has to be revisited from time to time. But I guess my point is that before offering a motion, I wanted to make the point that I think there's still a way to help the neighborhood in a way that the police department thinks is efficient and useful.
That's a good and valid point, because history has shown that that's exactly what you described, Mr. Newhouse, that happens, constantly.
If I may, I think the last time a similar circumstance came up, the agreement was made that some other signage would be put in place, something like, slow or a caution sign. The intersection didn't rise to the level of warranting a stop sign, much like this one, but are there other, is there a cone or a light or, I don't know, some other device that could be placed there to bring people's speed down or make them aware that they're coming into a dangerous intersection that wouldn't infringe upon any Mass General law. So I'd be open to, and, hopefully we could find a solution to that effect that would, I don't want to chill. I agree, Mike. I'm cautious of, Ms. O'Brien took the time to bring this to the town's attention, and I admire her for that. And in as much as we probably can't provide the stop sign, is there some other way? And I'm anxious to see if you have any thoughts or ideas about it.
I mean, I see, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, in terms of the specifics, I would, request that the manager just communicate further with the police department and ask if there's anything else that we can do, and if there is, certainly reach out to the resident or residents who brought this to your attention. That's all.
I'm in total agreement. I see a couple faces in the audience. Anybody want to make a comment on this? All right, you go to the audience because I did see a couple of faces. All right, why don't we take the request of what Mr. Newell stated and work along with the, I'm sorry,
I
Judy,
just
you
had
want
a
to say
question.
something?
To that point, now that it's all out there on the table, if, as a layperson receiving this, and I don't want to belabor the point, but, and I respect the response, so please don't take it out of context, but, when you get something back that says that it doesn't meet the criteria established in the manual on uniform traffic control devices, as a layperson, you may not understand the intricate details as to why it doesn't qualify. So if you send a letter like this to me, as a layperson, which I am in this case, I would say, well, what's the definition of that? So beyond just a letter, is somebody going to call this resident and explain a little bit about it so that they're educated as to why it doesn't qualify? Do you know what I'm saying? Other than just put a label on it and say it doesn't qualify.
Maybe, Jeff, you could make the phone
Yes,
call
yeah,
as
well-
a town manager. That would be,
Because I don't know what the criteria is, and probably couldn't articulate it, and they are certainly well-trained with engaging with the public, and I think sometimes a courtesy phone call and just being heard sometimes goes a lot further than putting the sign there itself and seeing a cruiser, patrol the area. So I think the points have been made by other people, but just to reiterate that point.
I will talk to the chief about steps that we can take to try to enforce the speed limit over there, and also reach out to Ms. O'Brien.
thank you, Jeff. Good point, Judy. Thank you. Okay. Continuing.
Next, under board to consider is a memorandum to the board in which I'm recommending that the board open a warrant for a special town meeting to be held on November 13th. And the purpose of the meeting would be to purchase property next to the St. Dorothy's Church. It's actually part of the church property, but the area that the town would be considering for purchase, if you're facing the church from Main Street, it is to the right of the church itself, and then extends behind the church, and the house runs along Glen Road. It's 7.6 acres. So my recommendation is the board open the warrant for consideration of this purchase, and that the board close the warrant on September 17th. And then we would, if the board approves of this recommendation, that the board would sign the warrant on September 23rd, a public hearing with the Finance Committee and potentially the Planning Board would be conducted on October 22nd.
Very good. Is there any questions, comments, or motion relative to the town manager's description, relative to the special upcoming town meeting?
Yeah, I would like to make the motion, as long as there's no comments. That the Board of Selectmen call a special town meeting for Wednesday, November 13th, 2013, at 7 p.m. at the Middle School Auditorium, 25 Carter Lane, for the purpose of appropriating funds necessary to purchase approximately 7.68 acres of property currently owned by the Archdiocese of Boston, 120 Main Street, and further to open the warrant for special town meeting this evening and to close the warrant at 4:30 PM on Tuesday, September 17th, 2013.
Is there a second?
Second?
Second. Motion made by Selectman Somaglia, second by Selectman O'Connell. All those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would
Yes.
just note one item that didn't appear under correspondence, but should have, and that is notice of the retirement of Chief Ed Bradbury. He advised me that of his intentions to retire on June 1st, 2014. The chief, as many of you know, has been an employee of the town for 40 years. Started out actually in the water department in 1973, and then in 1977 was appointed as a firefighter. Has gone up the chain, became a lieutenant, and ultimately the fire chief in 2008. Tremendous resource, in my estimation. Has been responsible for a number of upgrades to the department, and I think he'll be sorely missed.
Great, thank you.
June 1st?
June 1st of next year, yes.
Mr. Newhouse?
I just wanted to ask the manager to extend our congratulations to the chief and, let him know anything that we can do between now and then, we'd be happy to do. His service is much appreciated.
I think that's echoed by everybody. He's done a great job working for the town of Wilmington. Thank you. All right, very good. We, at the public comments, anybody has any comment to make? Public comments? I see no hands in the audience, and then we'll just continue
Got a
on.
couple-
Oh, Mr. Sagal, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for arriving late, but you have opened a warrant for a special town meeting for the purchase of some land at St. Dorothy. Just curious to know what the town plans to do with that land, if there's specific plans for that land, why, and how much are they planning to purchase it for?
We were in executive session a meeting ago to discuss this. I defer to the town manager if you would like to make any comment pertaining to it.
Well, the property is clearly a piece of property that's located in a prime space. Based upon the review that's been done, we believe it is usable property. The town does not have any specific use in mind at the moment, but similar to what we did a number of years ago when we purchased the Wildwood Street property, the town does have certain needs that could come about in the next few years, and given the fact that there's so few opportunities today to purchase property like this, I think it's to the town's advantage to seize the moment here and purchase this property. The purchase price is $1,725,000.
I'd just like to make this comment. Judy would agree. I mean, there's three words: location, location, location. It's a valuable location. It's a great spot for the community to look at it, and I think it would benefit the town. And let's be honest, not a lot of properties available on Main Street, and Glad's not making any more of it. So if we have an opportunity to get a great deal on behalf of the town, I say why not?
I would just add also, Mr. Chairman, that one of the advantages of this property is where it is currently church property. It's not on the tax rolls, so to speak, so it's, we will not see a diminishment in the amount of revenue coming into the town as a result of taking it off the tax rolls.
I don't think you're going to be seeing a ball field, so I think it's a great location for the town, a great opportunity, you know.
You said you...
I don't think it's going to be a ball field, I'll just say that, but I think it's a great opportunity for the community to look at it, and why not, you know? All right.
I didn't bring up the topic in opposition of it. I think it's a good piece of property. It seems to be all upland, you know. Most property in town that's available has a wetland portion to it. It's nice to see a piece of dry land.
Thank you, Mr. Sable. All right, why don't we, any other, good, yes, Mr. Lepore.
Can I bring up anything, or does it have to be something in relation to what was spoken upon
Well, you can
tonight?
bring up, whatever the question is, if we need to direct you to somewhere, go right ahead, go.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm out of place by asking this here, but I went to all the other boards, and my concern is I'm a resident of Cook Ave, and there's going to be an expansion of Kirkwood Printing, and in the engineer's own words, it's going to be significant blasting. That's a very sensitive area with all the underground contamination, and it's the whole street, Burnham Street, Cook Ave, they all have wells up there, and they've been contaminated, the same as the town's wells that have been contaminated, and the town was able to get Olin to pay for the MWRA hookup in the past when those wells were shut down. Now our wells are in the same condition. Basically, the planning board was going by the decision of the EPA to allow this project to continue with their signing off saying it's okay, and I don't feel that there's been enough research of what could happen if the blasting goes on. Now, Wilmington's distance from residential house is usually 250 feet. For this project, they're allowing them to go down to 100 feet, and it's pretty close to our wells. Some of the wells up there are so bad that you have to carry containers of water to be able to drink or cook. And if they get any worse, you know, if one of these wells are cracked by the shock wave or whatnot, now are we going to be able to drill a new well, or you know what goes on from there? None of these questions. I've been to the planning board meetings, health department, conservation. I went to all the boards. Even Mr. Hull, one of the residents up there, went to you, and you just said you were going to let the planning board's course go on with that. And I recently seen an email sent to conservation by Mr. Jim DiLorenzo, who's in charge of Olin Chemical, the Superfund site, and in his own words, it says that the toxic chemical that we're most afraid of is NDMA, and in his own words, it says that the spread of NDMA seems unlikely. And I've talked to all my residents, my neighbors up there, and seems unlikely is not good enough for us. I got them all to sign a petition saying that we'd prefer to have a water main put up the street before this project takes place, any blasting. And I do water mains. That's the type of work I'm in. So it's not uncommon for contractors to have this, put on their orders of conditions before a project like this takes place. And most of the time, it's when just a builder's building a new house, and they say that you're going to take down the water pressure, and it's going to be bad. There's a safety concern with the drop of water pressure for the fire department to be able to fight fires. Well, this is a huge safety concern, and I brought this issue up to planning board, and I was told by Carol Hamilton that the only way the residents on Cook Ave are going to get the water up the street is if we pay for it ourselves. I went and researched Kirkwood Printing. They gross over $50 million a year, so compared to there's just 7 houses up there, we're not financially comparable to them.
Let me just make a comment. I think the points you make are well taken and very valid. Given the geographic area, what's going on in South Wilmington, I think people are on edge and are concerned if anything's going on in that area because of the Olin situation and the plume. Blasting obviously is an issue. I don't know enough about the blasting per se, but if I could just have the town manager, just if you could look at it, take a look at it. I know we have Geo Insight. Any recommendations? I mean, obviously there is a concern. I think it's a valid point. Obviously, you're not going to get any answers here, but I do sympathize with you, and I agree with you. And if, Jeff, if you could try to take a look at
Yeah,
it, and just to see where we're at with that, you know?
This issue, as Mr. Lepore knows, has been considered by the Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission, there's limits in terms of what they can require with respect to the work that's being done. And I think my understanding is that part of the issue in terms of requiring a water line is outside of the realm of the Conservation Commission. I'm not sure that they can necessarily
Yeah, no, not
address
but
that.
What about planning board?
The Planning Board, they still have another meeting. It's my understanding they're going to be meeting,
And I was told by the director that this is a done deal. In her own words, this is a done deal. This will go through, and the only way I'm going to get water or anybody else on that street is if we pay for it ourselves. That's her own words. So this was over a month ago, so I don't understand how we can have an open meeting, you know, a public meeting to look at this, and the contractor can bring their plans and everything, when it's already been decided over a month ago. August 10th, I went into planning board's office, and it's a done deal right to my face, so, you know.
I understand where you're coming from, and I just don't want to shut you down at all, because that's my intent. You're a gentleman, you've never really been here, and you're conducting yourself well, and if we can leave it to the town manager to take a look at some of these concerns and get back to us, because, you know.
The only problem is the meeting's tomorrow night. You know, I don't have a lot of experience like with this, but it doesn't seem to, you know, I've talked to health department, everybody, and no one has any concern. And then,
well, I wouldn't categorize the comments as no one has any concerns. The question is whether the planning board can compel or require this particular property owner to run a water line or
I do excavation, I do water mains. So a lot of the water mains I do are for contractors that I've talked to that on the first orders of conditions was to put a water main up the street. In some cases, they were from already existing houses that there was no safety concern of pressures being dropped on the, you know, to supply fire hydrants and whatnot. The last water main I did was for the condos on the corner of 62 and 38, and that wasn't even connected. That was streets and streets away. I mean,
Mr. LaPointe, let me make a recommendation. Obviously, you know more about water lines and excavating than any of us up here. And if you're going to that meeting, I mean, you're more of an authority than any of us. I'd make those comments public.
I did at the first one, and then later on when I read the minutes, it didn't say anything that I said.
All right.
That's why I
I'm
came
sure
here
you got the
tonight, because
intention there
I
for
didn't know
tomorrow.
what
I'm sure you'll
other
have
avenue
intention
to
there
go
for
down
tomorrow.
to.
I think that's problematic of the planning department. It's been
Yeah.
my experience with Ms. Hamilton.
All right. Okay. I appreciate that. And what time's the meeting tomorrow?
7:30, 7.
7:30? All right. All right, good. Thank you. All set? Thank you. All right, thank you. Yeah, no problem. All right, any other public comments out there? Seeing that there's no other public comments, how about we go to new business and committee reports, and I'll start on this side of the table. Any?
No committee reports per se. I want to repeat just a couple of things because I think they bear repeating. The town cleanup day, which is scheduled for September 21st. I really want to encourage folks to come out. I think we all, I think, take a lot of pride as members of this board in the volunteerism throughout the community, throughout the year. So many organizations come up and talk about the fundraising events or other good deeds that they are doing for the population of Wilmington and their, Massachusetts. But this is really a great opportunity for someone to give a couple of hours on a Saturday morning and really have a direct benefit to the entire community. So please, just take a couple hours on Saturday the 21st and come on out. I guess I also wanted to, just very briefly voice, I'm looking forward to getting more information and becoming more informed and educated about the process for these solar electric panels potentially on top of buildings and what the tax ramifications of tax reductions and these pilot programs are. This is something I think we all want to see more green type of projects come about, but how that happens and how it happens in a way that's not injurious to the tax levy or our ability to tax those private institutions is important. So I'm hopeful that we can find a way to create opportunity for private business to come in and create these green projects, and also be positive cash generators for the community itself. And lastly, Jeff, and I'm sorry, maybe I'll make you repeat yourself. As we were talking about opening the special town meeting for the purchase of the property over near St. Dorothy's, I don't know that it was made completely clear as to why it's being scheduled as a special town meeting and why we're not engaging that transaction of that, the discussion of that transaction at a regular town meeting in the spring. Did you address that, or may I ask you to go a little further with it?
Good point. In the discussions with the representative from the Archdiocese, that did come up. It was noted that the town's annual town meeting would be in May of 2014. The church felt the need to complete this transaction in a more expeditious manner and did not feel that they could wait for authorization for a annual town meeting. Certainly there are other individuals, I presume developers and others, who would be interested in the property, and we were quite fortunate in the sense that they came to us and offered us the opportunity to have a first shot, if you will, at this property. So, but that was explored, and they were not interested in. They were looking to have this done sooner rather than later.
And I appreciate that, a little extra detail explanation. I think people might have had questions as to, this is the kind of thing normally we could take care of in May at the regular town meeting, but because of the unique circumstance of this property and the seller, we're required, or we're, in order for us to hopefully take advantage of this great opportunity, we had to schedule the special town meeting. So I just wanted to make sure that that was made clear to the population. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think all the points that Selectman Shampoo made are certainly well warranted. On the resident issue that Mr. Lepore had brought up, certainly look forward to getting an update perhaps before our next meeting. Obviously, this is a hot topic and seems to be causing a lot of stress here, and it may impact more than one resident. So I'd like to get some sort of an update to the board before our next meeting. Additionally, relative to the Wilmington High School rededication, I'll table that and allow some of my other colleagues to comment on that in more detail. And I just wanted to put my support right out there for this land purchase for the property adjacent to St. Dorothy's Church. I think this is a unique opportunity. Certainly we'll have more opportunity to speak about this on the town meeting floor. But certainly I know that this board and previous boards, as well as the previous town manager and Jeff and his leadership team, have always been interested in exploring new opportunities to expand our inventory of town land. So I hope that residents will certainly keep an open mind to this endeavor and certainly give it its utmost consideration as we move forward. So I'm sure more details will be unfolding over the weeks and months to come. So thank you.
Very good.
I agree with them.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, the one matter that I have is information regarding the rededication of Alumni Field, which has been publicized, will occur this Thursday night at 6:45 p.m., shortly before the kickoff of the football game against Winchester. And as a member of the high school building committee, I've been asked to pass along some of that information just as a matter of communication with the residents. General parking will be, as folks would expect, on the Middlesex Avenue parking area next to the 4th of July building. And then entrance to the field specifically will be between the high school and the Roman House, and there's going to be a walkway that is created or established for that access to the field in a way that's safe and minimizes the inconvenience. Also, tickets will be sold in the Roman House parking lot. I've been asked to pass that along as well. And if folks haven't seen the literature which has been published, you really, I'd recommend trying to get there Thursday night, because I had the opportunity to go by, and the field just looks terrific. And, it's a construction site, so everybody needs to bear that in mind. It's going to be a construction site for a while, but the field really looks great, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, a year longer than we wanted, but anyway, well spoken. Jeff, important dates.
Important dates, we have the farmers market continuing through September 29th, the town common parking lot, 10:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Those are on Sundays. September 12th, as previously mentioned, the rededication of the alumni field. 6:45 is the actual time for the rededication. The game starts at 7. September 21st, this is the annual town cleanup, as previously noted, 8 a.m. to 12 noon. September 22nd, the Wilmington's 9th annual half marathon and 5K run or walk. September 23rd is the Board of Selectmen's next meeting here in room 9 at 7.
Thank you. Before we adjourn, once again, September's Leukemia Awareness Month, and we're going to be wearing a little orange at the next meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion made by Selectman Newhouse, second by Selectman Semaglia. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, and we'll see you at the next meeting. Good night.